All right, how you guys doing today? It is me again, and we are here to kind of show you what we do here. We're at this point in one of my builds where I need a little bit of, more black walnut, and so we're going to go ahead and we're going to mill this down and get us what we need right here. So the first thing we need to do is make sure that we've got as much depth as we can. I think that we have enough to cut through here, but it'll be kind of close. Make sure that you're off your table and that your cut isn't going to go through. We don't have a whole lot of saw blade going through here anyway, but you can tell this is a fairly thick slab. You want to bolt your guide on. You want to clamp your guide on. I use just a steel level, and then you want to clamp it down to the table so it doesn't move. And then you're just going to make the cut. Once you plug it in, yeah, I forgot that when you're setting everything up, you unplug your saw. But you definitely have to plug it back in order to work. We were just shy by maybe 1/8 of an inch, but we were just able to break that off, and that's okay. We have a relatively straight cut with the exception of that one little bit up there, but that's okay. It'll work for us. All right, next we are going to cut this down to size. So the next thing we want to do, take all your clamps off. You're going to spin your board around. Because we have this little lip right down here, there's a couple of things that we could do. We could hit it with a chisel to take that off of there, and that'd leave us a straight line right here. And I actually think that's probably what we're going to do. Let me go ahead and the alternative is that you can just flip it around, put it on the fence, and use the guide in order to cut your next strip. Give me 1 second. Let me go grab a chisel real quick. It's such a tiny little slight sliver down here that it'll come off really easy, and my chisels could stand to be sharpened, but it's still coming off really easy. Now, the advantage to buying lumber that is squared 4 sides is that you never have to do any of this. The disadvantage is that you're going to pay a premium for that, and this only takes, honestly, a couple of seconds to do. So, I mean, is it really worth the extra money? And what we're cutting down here is black walnut. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to turn our board around. And see, we're not level right here. Hopefully we'll have a little bit of a straighter edge on this other side. A straighter, yeah, that's much better. It's still just a little bit off, but we can work with that. All right, next thing we want to do is, I only need about 1 inch off of here. But because we have to mill this, we're going to set the table at 1.5 inches. And that gives us about a 1/2 inch to play with. All right, now we have 2 options. First option is that we can rip this in sections. So I can run it through the table saw about at half height. Then I can come through on a second pass and run it through the table saw again. And that's the best way to do it. The alternative is I can cut it all in one piece. I know that my saw will cut it all in one piece. So that's what I'm gonna do. So what we're gonna have to do, because this is a pretty heavy piece right here, what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to run it about halfway through the table saw, and then we're gonna have to go to the other side, grab it and pull it through. And we're gonna lock our fence in place. This isn't gonna be perfect because this does have a little bit of a wobble to it. So this first cut may not be perfect, but that's okay. We just want a little, that's why we left a 1/2 inch. We just want a little bit of stock that we can work with. So let's turn this on. Oh, I gotta plug that in.
Give me a second.
All right. Okay, what we have going on right now is there's tension in the board. There's tension in the board and it's pulling this closed. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna grab one of these little cut-off pieces we have down here. That one's actually a little too thick. And we're gonna wedge it up in there so that it holds this open and doesn't allow it to shut. So that right there should be all we need to do. We're going to pull it back a little bit before we start it back up. We got this piece off here. It can get a little sketchy, so you got to be really comfortable with your saw, and you've got to really pay attention to what you're doing and just be careful. We'll set that down. Now, this first edge that we cut, in a perfect world, this first edge would be perfectly straight. We know it's not a perfect world, but I'll be damned if that doesn't look good. There is no gap. Huh. Well, what about this side? Yeah, see, this side is not. You can see the gapping here, here. This side is not. But that side is perfectly straight. That is, well, you know, very rarely does it go that good on the first shot. So next we want to straighten up this line. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring this in here, and it's wider on the bottom than it is on the top. So what we're going to do is we're going to flip this over and we're going to catch it so it just barely catches the kerf on the bottom. Come out just a hair, about right there. Before we start this, I need to find what happened to my push stick. There we go. Alright, so check our blade height. We can come down a little bit on blade height. You only want enough blade sticking out of the top to represent how much of your finger you're willing to lose. Make sure our table's locked. Okay, so when we ran this through, we did not get this section here or this section here. So it's not quite there yet, but you only want to take off a very little bit at a time. We're just going to come in just maybe a 1/16 of an inch. We're going to run it through one more time. That looks pretty darn good. This side and this side are now off. There's a big hump here. There's a big hump right here. And this kind of bows inward. So it's the hump side that we want to take off first. And so if this side was straight, then we could use this side and against the fence, but it's not straight. So that's not what we're going to do. What we're going to do is we're going to grab our 4-foot. And you know, 4-foot sometimes is a little long for this. And so I also use my my 2-foot. If there was a 3-foot, and there may be, I've never looked to see, then that would be ideal. So what we're wanting to take off is this hump here, this hump here. So what we're going to do is we're going to do this in a couple of passes. And so, because those humps are bigger than the entrance, we're just going to bring this up flush with the table saw. So we're not going to be taking much of anything off this side. We're going to bring this back, and I won't be using the push stick because we're using this right here, and it's just really kind of difficult. So again, this is one of those sketchy things that you really need to be comfortable with your equipment. And you need to be comfortable with what you're doing. And you need to remember to lower your table saw blade so that it's just barely sticking up above the wood. All right. You also need to remember to lock your fence in. And I am blowing a lot of dust out. So, I'm going to need to deal with that here pretty soon too. Should be wearing your PPE, you know, and I'm really bad about that. So you'll just have to excuse me. Those of you guys that want to come on later and tell me how I'm not wearing PPE, I get it, I understand, but you know, I'm bad about that. So. So you'll note on this cut right here that we didn't take much of anything off here, and we didn't take much of anything off here, but we did get those 2 bows completely taken out of there, which is what we were worried about. But we're not done yet. We're going to do another pass. And so we're going to leave our table saw there. We're going to come in about a 1/16 of an inch. We're not measuring it. We're just kind of eyeballing it. We're going to cut this about, yeah, that's maybe about 1/8 of an inch because it's catching the entire kerf of the blade. We don't need that much. So we're going to back it off to about half of the blade kerf. And then we're going to put that back on there. Bring this back, and we're going to run it through one more time. We're going to take a look at it again. It looks like we've got everything on this side, but we missed just this corner on this side, and that's okay. We'll bring it in a little bit more. So again, we'll catch about 1/8 of an inch, or about a 1/16 of an inch, about half of the blade kerf. Bring that in. last time. Alright, we are now surfaced on 3 sides. We're surfaced on 3 sides now. This is perfectly fine. We can set it up against the fence. There is no gaps anywhere down. It's perfectly flat. You can put it on a 90 square to check it later if you want, but I know it's good because I've done this so many times. Now, because this side is good, this side is good, and this side is good, we can just use the table saw, bring it in, get rid of the square there. We're going to bring it in, get rid of the level there. We're going to catch just half of the blade's kerf and lock it in. Make sure our height is right. This is the side that has the bow in it. And remember, we wanted to take the high spots off before we worried about the low spots. So when we set it, all we were able to get off of it here was this end and this end. This is working exactly the way that a joiner would work, okay? And now what we need to do is we need to bring it in a little bit more. You only want to take off about a 1/16 of an inch at a time. If it takes you 3 passes to get it, that's fine. It takes you 3 passes to get it. But you only want to take off about a 1/16 of an inch at a time. So you can look at the edge of the wood. You can see how it gets rough right here because the blade never touched it. And then we got this part right up here. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to bring the fence in about another 1/16 of an inch. And we're going to hit it one more time. And there you have it. That's all there was to it. All right, we are straight all the way down. We'll run this on our fence, but we already know it's good. We'll run it down the fence, perfectly straight all the way down with no gaps. And that's all there is to it. Thank you.